Alright, Crisis on Infinite Earths, Part 2.
Even in the darkest times, hope is the light that lifts us out of darkness.
Let's go save the universe.
Hi, welcome to my spoiler-free reviews of Crisis on Infinite Earths, episode by episode, as they air in America. The reason I'm keeping these spoiler-free and just a sort of general collection of my thoughts and is predominantly because they haven't aired in the rest of the world yet. I'm in the UK, so I feel for my fellow UK people. I've managed to watch it. Let's not talk about how that's been possible. But I've seen the first two episodes, and I know a lot of people in the UK haven't, so I don't want to spoil anything. But I wanted to do these reviews in case anybody wanted to see general views of it without being spoiled. So, to explain what I mean by spoiler-free, I won't be going into any specific plot details. I won't be giving away any twists. I won't be giving away any sort of major plot points from the series. I will be talking about stuff that has appeared in the trailer. So if it's something we know has happened or we know happens from the trailer, then I'm going to assume most people have seen the trailer for Crisis. So if you haven't seen the trailer, it's only like a couple of minutes long, go watch that now, and then you won't be completely spoiled for the bits that are in the trailer. But so there's a couple of things in this review that I referenced that we know about from the trailer. So there, I'm not counting those as spoilers. But in terms of major plot twists, etc., etc., I'm going to avoid those. Now, this episode starts off picking up pieces from the end of the last episode, which ended on quite a bleak sort of tone. And what we see is the characters sort of picking up pieces from that and moving forward in dealing with this crisis. Now, what I think they do really well in this episode is to focus on the sort of characters. And again, much like the first episode, they hone in on a handful of the main cast to focus on in this episode and really deal with those, which I think is definitely the right way to go. Because if you try and concentrate too much and cram too much in from everybody in every episode, you're not going to get enough time and nobody will really feel developed. So what I really like that they did here was, well, they did a couple of things. First of all, they made sure they had those character moments. They had made sure they had those moments to reflect with the relevant characters on things that had happened in the previous episode. They also, what they did was split up the team. So we had three sort of mini missions, sub-missions to the main mission of saving the multiverse in this episode that would help out with that goal later on. Now, I think possibly 3 was one too many. There's one that involves Barry, Sarah, and who else was there? Anyway, when you watch it, you'll see that little team went off to do their mission, and I kind of felt that I can see why it was necessary, and I can see why it will be necessary going forward in terms of providing some setup for stuff that's going to happen later. But in terms of character and sort of narrative in this episode, it kind of felt like it was distracting from the other two main parts of the story and the other two missions. And the other two missions felt a bit more important at this point, and certainly felt that like they fitted better in the episode. But despite that, they juggle the characters quite well. We get some nice character moments. Now, you'd think, this being the Batwoman episode of the crossover, it's in Batwoman's slot, it's technically episode 9 of Batwoman, that there would be a really heavy focus, like there was last time on Supergirl, on Batgirl, Kate Kane. And she is definitely one of the characters we get to see a lot of in this episode. But unlike last episode, I think it's more evenly distributed, and you don't get to see as much of Kate as you do of Kara in episode 1. I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's just because you also don't get to see many of her supporting characters. You only get to see really one of her supporting character. Whereas last episode, in the Supergirl based episode, we got a lot of the supporting characters of the Supergirl world. We don't get so many of Kate Kane's supporting characters. We only really get the one that we've seen before. And I guess that was a time restricted thing, or maybe they just didn't have the need to be in it. I mean, if you think about who is in Kate's sort of world and Batwoman's world, specifically in Gotham, I can't really see how any more than the person they did include would fit into the storyline. So in a way, I suppose I'm quite glad they didn't really focus on it, because why throw stuff in just for the sake of it? Let's have stuff that actually is relevant to the story. Let's talk about the cameos quickly, because they were revealed. This is the episode for the big cameos. This is the one where we get the ones we've all really been waiting for, and they were all revealed in trailers. And sneak peeks and stuff that have been released officially. So I'm not gonna feel like I'm spoiling anything by saying who they are. And talking about them in a very general sense, but I won't talk specifics about their plot lines. So this is the episode where we get Tom Welling back as Clark Kent, the Smallville version of Superman. And yeah, he's not in a massive amount of this. If out of the 3 cameos I'm going to talk about here, his is probably the shortest, but I really like what they did with it. It was good to see them again, and as a fan of Smallville from back in the day, it was really nice, and it really felt like a closure on his universe, and it was really nice to see him back and to feel that sort of closure for his character from Smallville. It was a good ending for him, I think. Then there was Kevin Conroy as older Batman. Now, Kevin Conroy, if you don't know, is the voice of Batman from Batman the Animated Series from the 90s, from Justice League from the early 2000s, the Justice League cartoons and Justice League Unlimited, and from numerous video games and other animated properties that adaptations of Batman they've done over the years. He is what most people think of when you think of animated Batman. He's the voice that most people hear in their heads. So it was really good to see him in here, and I loved the way that the people that were directing, I'm not sure who the directors were, but whoever they were, chose to have you hear his voice before you ever see him on screen, because he's, as I said, renowned for being the voice actor that is Batman. So great that they had him. You hear his voice first, and it just brought back so many memories, so many nostalgic memories for me watching Batman the Animated Series and Justice League, etc., etc. I did find it slightly strange initially. It took me a little while to get used to hearing the voice and seeing him in live action at the same time, and the voice coming out of a live action actual person. That was a bit strange, because I'm only ever used to seeing that voice come out of, or hearing that voice come out of, an animated body. So it was took a little bit to get used to, but once I did, I think he did a brilliant job, and very much older, jaded version of Batman. This isn't the Batman, unlike Tom Welling's portrayal. That was the Smallville universe, effectively. This isn't the animated universe. This is a different universe. He's playing a different version of that character. But it was still... he put his own unique twist on it, even from the stuff he's done before, and it worked really well. The third and biggest cameo was, of course, Brendam Routh as Superman from Superman Returns, and every indication in this indicates that it absolutely is that version of Superman. Obviously, he played Superman and Clark Kent in the 2006 movie Superman Returns. He now plays the Atom on Legends of Tomorrow, and they played with that quite nicely. I thought they played with the fact that they look the same quite nicely. There was a nice bit of interaction between the two as well, so that was quite good too. And I feel Brendam Routh really encapsulates the character. He's a really good actor, and just seeing him side by side to himself playing 2 different characters, you can tell, I mean, he's not just playing the same character, which is one of the criticisms I had early on in Legends of Tomorrow. In my head, he was too similar to the bumbling Clark Kent. But actually, when you see them side by side, they're really not, and they are very different. And his Clark Kent and his Superman he did a really good job of recapturing the sort of essence of the character that he played back in 2006, but also developing a bit, and you can tell that he's grown since then. It's very good. Love the cameos, and I think this is probably the biggest we're getting in the cameos. I don't expect it to be the last. I'm sure we'll get some more cameos going forward, but this was the big one for the cameos. I said about the missions, didn't I? Splitting them up. I think that was a very good thing to do to kind of get a bit of downtime from the last episode where everybody was together. I think it's good to space out and be able to focus on a few different people. We got a lot of focus on Kara again this episode, but I think that's because she was dealing with repercussions from the previous episode, so it was absolutely right that we focus on her again. We got a bit of focus on Kate, We've got some nice stuff from Kate and some setting up stuff from for the future, which may be future crossover stuff. Maybe it'll play out later on in this crossover. I don't know, but it was interesting to see. Who else did we get some good stuff from? We got some... again, Barry was kind of a bit wasted, although it's his episode next, so maybe we'll see. I'm expecting we'll probably see a big focus on Barry next episode, because The Flash is tomorrow. But, again, he seemed a bit wasted here. Although he was used a bit more than last episode. So... And we got a couple more of the legends added in as well. We got Rory and Constantine were added into this episode, added on to Sarah and the Atom and Ray Palmer, who we already had. So I quite like that they're dripping in the legends bit by bit as well, because that's a big team. And what I think they're doing quite well is, when you've got 5 shows, one of which is a team show on its own, trying to give enough time to people so that you don't feel people are being just like wasted too much, or that there's too many people on focusing on at any one time that nobody gets any character stuff, is a real danger. So what they've done here nicely is not introduced everyone right at the top. I'm sure by next week, because next week is a sort of mid crossover finale, because there's a breakup of a month before the last 2 parts after tomorrow's episode. So there's going to be some kind of big... I'm expecting some kind of big cliffhanger, and I expect probably more of the people. I think they'll probably start off with the kind of splitting the team up again type format at the beginning of the episode, and then the last act come to bed together for something big to happen. What that will be, I have no idea, but I'm quite looking forward to seeing it. So in conclusion, I would say, yeah, it's a solid episode of this crossover. We got some lovely cameos. I loved the cameos, best part of it. And it was the highlight for me was seeing Ray Palmer and his version, the actor's version of Superman, standing side by side. Absolutely brilliant. And yeah, and of course seeing the nice little wrap up to Smallville as well in there. That was all very good stuff. One thing I will say about because I don't, not everything is perfect in these crossovers, and I'd say my biggest dislike or flaw of this episode, mainly down to budget, is there's a Superman fight scene, and I won't give you any details because again, don't want spoilers, but effectively the TV budget really doesn't hold up to portraying this fight scene. It's a very ambitious fight scene, and the concept of it I absolutely love. The character work around it I really love. The actual fight scene itself, the CGI just didn't hold up. It looked very, very cheap, because we're used to lots of money being spent on films on big CGI fight scenes, and this is a TV budget. It's not their fault. It was more ambitious than they had the budget for. But whether or not, I think narratively wise, it made sense to include it. It kind of threw me out of the fourth wall for a moment, and it was, the TV budget just didn't hold up. But other than that, it was a very good, solid episode. What did you think of episode 2, Batwoman, of the Batwoman episode of Crisis on Infinite Earths? Let me know in the comments below. People in the UK, I don't know if you're going to get to see this, because nobody's bought Batgirl to screen even. Every other Arrowverse show is on Sky, but nobody's bought Batwoman. So what they're going to do about the crossover, I have no idea. Hopefully, they'll at least buy one episode of Batwoman so they can show it. But I don't know. We'll see. Thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow for the final Crisis review before the break. And then there's a month break. We'll be back in January with more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.